point of view of some of them, or and more. Let's see. The lecture about Bretton Woods is a lecture in which it's relatively easy. It says it will be about the discussion of weakness and strengths of each institution. In the lecture, there are mentioned the main criticisms in the lecture slides. So things like anarchia, make sure they were already mentioned for you to address in your essay, but just to make sure, be very clear in the IMF, you know Washington consensus, conditionalities, and moral hazard. Those are like key content. There are more things that you will get from the lecture. But basically, if you don't show that you know what those three things are, that will discount you. Okay? Okay, this is a question, if you are doing this question, is one in which, in the last editions of Dickens cover, in the last chapter, there's a couple of sections in that, but in previous editions, there was nothing about supranational institutions, so you really need to get Stiglitz for this one. Okay, because all Stiglitz readings are about supranational organizations, but I'm telling you in particular what chapters. Chapter 1, the promise of global institutions; 2, broken promise, which is obviously analyzing the failures; 8, about the IMF; and 9, the way ahead, which is also our problem solutions. And then remember that Stiglitz has a focus on the IMF, the World Bank. You have 2 readings in your packages, pros and cons. For the lecture, for the exam, that's what we'll be testing, basically. And also there is one on Pitt, the geography of power, which is more critical. So basically, that's the list of readings that you need to do. For this one, I will mention there is also the chapter on the World Trade Organization, the chapter by Legrand, which is it was the last workshop, so because that's one of the criticisms of the World Trade Organization. He also has a chapter on the IMF, World Bank, and World Trade Organization. So it's a nice, good source to complement. Okay. So we will not have time to go to every lecture, but as you can see, you can go and see the readings that you need to do and the key topics that you need to be aware for each lecture. So in some cases, still in the there are just pages. This topic which is about world states, and I shall give you the pages where there are things that are relevant. So there are some topics in which you have a lot of information. For instance, in the Asia miracle or in the crisis. Try to focus on understanding common threads, because the question will be about that. It will be about factors, not analyzing country by country, it's analyzing different factors influencing policies across countries, and also differences. And in this lecture you can have, there are basically 2 topics in the lecture, whether there was a miracle or not, and whether the debates about the factors. And the question can be a combination with A and B, or can be only one of those, but you need to study both sides. It is, question for this topic will not be about the third wave. So that was in your essay, because we didn't, that was a research topic for your essay. It will be basically about what you have in the reading. So the first 8 Asian economies: Singapore, Taiwan, Korea, Hong Kong, and from the second wave, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines. China can be included as example. Japan is not part of the topic. Do not include example from Japan in your exam because that will severely affect my sympathy with your exam. Okay, so I will go back then to the questions. I want people to ask questions because I think that's, I mean, if you have more questions, you can. So this is the kind of basic advice for exams that you, I'm sure you have had already from all your lectures. So if you are happy, I can skip that, but really make sure you answer the question. Don't just put everything you know about the topic without any structure or without thinking how I was answering the question. Take some time to think on it or make a diagram, but it's just writing everything you know is actually the best recipe for failure. So take your time, focus on answer the question. In this course, the answer questions are like mini essays. It's the same idea. You have a structure, you have an intro when you say what you're doing, then you have a discussion. Usually you will have to confront ideas or compare factors, internal to external, and then have a conclusion. Okay? And the conclusion is like a summary. The conclusion is the answer to the question. So always try to provide views, contrasted views, and examples always add to your answers. And of course you need to show that you have read the reading. It's a test. It's a clear test. Okay? So, and things that you have indicated in these notes. I mean, suppose that I say, well, moral hazard is it's in the notes. That's one slide in the text, and it's mentioned by Steve. But make sure that that particular concept you know what is it and you have explained. Other concept that summary obviously is not the content of all what you need to study, but that's basically pointing some point that you shouldn't miss. So you need more things, that's what you should go to the reading, but when you're doing your readings and your summaries, make sure that things that are mentioned here as key concepts are addressed. So first concern that you may have. You need to remember all the references, authors' names, and dates. So first, you don't need a reference list, and you don't need dates. It's not that they say. But it is important that you remember the names. This is all about discussions and contrasting views. If you don't remember the name of the author, how can you contrast the view? So when you are reading, in the readings, you need to try to remember what's the name of the reading, or maybe they are not reading from some authors, but they are very influential. For instance, in Globalization, Omai was the one that practically created the idea of globalization. So even when we don't have the reading from Omai, it is mentioned by other people, and you should know who he was. So, and as I say, before, be aware that you may be asked to explain the views of a specific author. So that's, last year I already started doing that, and that will be like a more pronounced of the trend. I can say, for instance,